is not as relevant to the job market, okay? And then there is the issue of when the ones that are working, most of them are not even working in the formal sector, but in the informal sector. And then she realizes even much more that in that informal sector, the challenges that go into young people when they're starting small businesses. So I just wanted to show you that it is in looking for this information that you begin to see how complex an issue is, that there's no issue that is you do A plus B equals C. No, a lot of them have a lot of interrelated issues and problems. And usually you may start thinking that you want to address unemployment, but as you go along, you will realize, okay, maybe I need to concentrate on young people and the issue of, if for example, she wants to look at like the solution to unemployment, she may realize that, okay, maybe I'm interested in tackling it from the side of education, or maybe I want to tackle it from the side of let's say, manufacturing. Maybe I want to start helping young people to get loans. Maybe I need them to start being more innovative so that they can create markets for themselves. I hope you can see that usually the problem requires many more than one person to handle the issue, because it manifests itself in very different sort of like patterns or ideas or sectors. I don't know whether that makes sense. So Francisca and everybody else, I want you to start thinking when you go to the field, because the data is beginning to tell you different things. So you need to decide where are you going to concentrate? Are you going to concentrate on maybe youth unemployment, and then maybe look through the issue of entrepreneurship? Or will you look at it from the issue from the side of education? Still, you are addressing unemployment, but it's just the angle you're taking to be able to arrive at the solution you will implement at the community level. Does anybody have a question so far on what I have said? So the point becomes, if you don't do your work properly, it means you will not get all the information you need to make a good decision about where you want to tackle the problem from. Okay? Any questions? Oh, Fionn, okay, I see your message. Kamara, Wisesa. Okay, Hernaina, Kamara maybe has a question.
No, just Renaina was asking if I was following the English class or the French one.
Ah, okay, sorry. So which one are you following? Okay. So any question, anybody? All right. So I was interested in hearing from a French person. So I don't know, Paul Isofo? Paul, I don't know whether you speak French. Paul, did you do your assignment?
Yeah, yes, I did my assignment, yeah.
Okay.
I speak French.
Okay, do you want to share? But at least you can now speak to us in English, isn't it?
Yeah, I can speak in English.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, as my partner said that it's a little bit difficult.
Okay.
But I would like to share with you. Like here, I focused on poverty and girls, early marriage for girls. So here I discovered that here in Niger, women are more like in number than men, but in schools we find always boys. So it's boys that are attending schools. Do you get me? So in my trends, yeah, in my trends, I show that many girls like left schools, especially from 2009 to 2019. So, and I discovered that this is because of the early marriage that push girls to left their schools. And about the what you call it, poverty from 1992 to 2009. So population are increasing in terms of poverty. So all this is because of the high rate of fertility. And this push also students to leave their school because of the poverty. So this is what I talk about in my assignment.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, so I'm hoping that the rest can try. As hard as it is stretching your muscles, but I hope that you can try and get your work done. Okay, so I want you to show you a video. Today we are discussing assumptions and biases. So I want you to see this video and then you give me feedback, okay? You want me to repeat the video again? Or are you okay?
Could you please repeat the video?
Okay. So remember, our topic is the issue of assumptions and blind spot. So have that in mind as you watch the video. Okay. Oops, sorry. So what are your reactions? Or what do you think happened there?
I think the mom with the Rasta dread, like the Rasta one was just like, he made an early decision, an early conclusion. He thought the other mom was just pushing the car.
Yes.
And
so the black man, yes, the black man thought that the white guy who had been running was pushing his car. And so he just came and tossed it over the cliff. So what do you think of that?
I think instead of just coming and pushing, if he didn't understand, he haven't understand what the white guy was doing, he just has to come and ask the question if the man needs help or if there's something like that.
Yes. So Dylan, I see your answer there. You're saying the lady. I think I don't know whether it's a lady. I thought it was a man who has dreadlocks, but yes, he was too much in a hurry. He did not have time to ask the man what was happening. So he just assumed or made an assumption about what needed to be done. Yes, so Ebenezer is also saying there was no investigation. Esozimina Bamaze, what are you saying? Okay, Bamaze, what are you saying? What are you, yeah, Bamaze. So Tafazo, I can see your message as I wait for Hernaina to tell me about Mamaze's question or answer. That's a loss. One should be specific when seeking help and one should wait and listen. Linda Abraham says the black man assumed the white man wants to push his car. So he helped without asking the question, what's happening? Yes. And so remember when we did this work with Abadodo, I can see, yes, he assumed the white man needed help in pushing his car. So he should have asked first. Was replying to my question saying that the translation is not working on, okay, sorry, Heren. I hope that can be sorted out. Yeah, so the thing is, assuming is where, so what is an assumption? Based on this video, what is assumption? You can reply on the chat or you can just unmute yourself and speak.
Hello, Doc Francisca here.
Okay.
So I believe an assumption is an idea we conceive from a situation which might not be the actual truth.
Yes. So again, based on your experiences, based on your country and culture, there's a way you interpret things a lot that if you're in a setting that maybe you don't come from, it's easy to read things that make sense to you, but that's not what that culture is saying. So Paul, because you have spoken to me about your project, allow me to use you as an example. Paul is talking about young women and early marriages in his community, or, you know, but Paul is not a woman. That means, it doesn't mean that he can't research on things around, you know, early marriages or young women not going to school. But it just means that Paul needs to be aware that he's not a woman. So there are many things he won't understand, and that there's always value in asking, not just asking questions, but asking the right questions. The right questions here means just ask more questions than you have answers to, so that you seek to understand an issue from the other person's point of view, okay? So that you're not in a sense asking with what, remember what we discussed about our biases. You're not asking questions based on your own biases. Like, just a crude example, I don't think anyone would do this in their right mind, but assume you're now sort of like investigating gender-based violence and you're a man. And then you go and ask, so what did you do so that you can be beaten so much? Already you are assuming that this woman was beaten because she made a mistake. So you must really be very careful about how you ask the question, what question you ask, but also try and sort of like make sure that the questions you're asking don't have your biases in mind, but also are not assuming anything about the situation. So assume in this community where you're talking about gender-based violence, women actually expect to be beaten because it's their cultural expression of love. And then you're coming from a point of view where you're a lawyer and you feel any form of beating is unacceptable. What do you do when you're interviewing a woman who says, oh, I'm so sad that my husband doesn't beat me because it means he doesn't love me? What do you do in such a case? What do you do in such a case? So assume you have gone to the field. Assume you are, yes, somebody wants to speak? Or did somebody want to speak? Did you understand the question? So you're doing a research. This is my question. You're doing a research. You're doing a research in this community where on gender-based violence. Okay, and you're in this community where you want to understand why gender-based violence is so high. Now, but remember, you are perhaps a lawyer or the culture you come from, it is unacceptable for somebody to beat up somebody else. So it's unacceptable to have gender-based violence. But you are doing your research in this community where women believe culturally that being beaten by a man is an expression of love. So the question I'm asking is, what do you do as a researcher? What are some of the questions you ask as you listen to the women give you their reasons for gender-based violence? What are some of the questions do you ask, or what are some of the views you have? Yes, somebody wants to speak?
Yes, Dr. Francisca here.
Yes.
I'll find out from...
I'm just cautioning the class that Francisca is getting all the points. You people are not speaking at all. Anyway, go ahead, Francisca.
So I'll find out from them how they felt if they have been beaten before, and how they felt, and if they know the extreme results of physical abuse. Maybe it's normal hitting, and they don't know how far it can go, that it can even cause death. So I'll find out from them if they actually know the extreme cases and the results.
Okay. I think we lost Francisca. Sorry. Okay. Who else wants to give it a go? Okay, Fiona is saying, ask them why they feel that love is expressed through violence. Okay. Thank you. Yes, Fiona, that's a very good question. You want to understand the problem deeper. So yours is not to tell them gender-based violence is wrong. That you will do when you're doing the actual intervention. Once you have found a solution, but at this point, you want to understand the problem from their point of view, okay? So you need to dig deeper to find out why for them this kind of maybe, let me call it behavior is acceptable. Then as you dig deeper, you also try and find out, okay, ask them, this is Dylan, ask them what triggers them to beat their wife. So you are asking the men, what triggers them to beat their wives, isn't it? Then keep digging deeper, but assume you're talking up, they're giving you the cultural answer. Also go into the territory of what does that make them feel? And find out, like what Francisca was saying, are there any fatalities that have happened? Because you want these people, as they talk to you, to realize that maybe this cultural expression of love, they've never thought about the connection between the cultural expression of love and the number of deaths that women experience in this particular culture because of the beating that goes on. But you remember, you're not saying anything, you're just asking questions so that you can understand and so that you can design an intervention. Okay? So I want us to go right into it. I don't know whether anyone has anything else to say. Sorry. I don't know whether anyone has anything to say, but so an example of an assumption is a thing that is accepted as true or as certain to happen without proof. So you're accepting that being beaten is okay, or is that how our culture is, without really the proof that it is really the truth or okay. So you are assuming. So this even the women themselves are assuming that it is okay to be beaten, and they found it as culture. They've never asked why this culture has been there or what it has done to them. They just go ahead and accept it as the truth. So you can have assumptions at very different levels. You can have assumptions at the community level, and that's why you do more than what the community is telling you. That's why you go back to the data and ask yourself, what is the data telling me? Because I might be investigating an issue where the people, the proponents themselves, the people who I'm talking to, themselves don't have a much broader understanding of the issue. So if I try and get a solution from what the people tell me, I will not have the solution that will help them. So that's why you try and research through data, and you also, of course, talk to the community to understand the problem more. So Linda is saying, I will ask them why they keep enduring the pain while being violated. But Linda, I will caution you, at this point in time, they don't know they are being violated. So you see, you're already giving them your description of gender-based violence. The point to make is don't give them your description of gender-based violence. Let them tell you so that you can understand the problem in this community is not that gender-based violence to them is bad. It is because they have accepted that it is a way of life. So to them at this point, they cannot process the fact that it is a violation. It is at the point when maybe assume if you understand that this is the problem, you go back and design a solution, you will come back and say, by the way, have you ever considered gender-based violence? You see gender-based violence as love, but have you ever considered it to be a violation of your human right? It is at the level where you've designed an intervention that you're supposed to give them your definition. So translation for Bamaze, for me, I will try to understand the historical, causes of the violence, then as a sign, taken as a sign of love, exactly. You want to know where this narrative came from the beginning, so that, so that you keep interrogating, why do these women, interrogating here means you deepen your understanding about why these women think being beaten is love, okay? And yes, that's you must understand the history of where that came from. Okay, so does anybody have a question so far? And usually a lot of these assumptions come from the point of view of what we call our blind spots. Our blind spots is an area where a person's view is obstructed. I don't know how many of you have ever driven a car, but if you drive a car and you're looking through the side mirrors, one of the things is there's a spot where when a car is overtaking you and it is not far behind and it's not in front of you, somewhere there's a place where you actually can't see that there's a car overtaking. And so that area is called a blind spot. And it's basically the area where your vision cannot see, okay? And it is used to mean there are some things you will not be able to process by the virtue of where you are at, or by the virtue of who you are, or by the, so that's why you do research to enhance your understanding, to remove your blind spots, and then to be able to deal with your assumptions. And there are various, sorry?
Yeah, I have a question. I have a question, please.
Yes.
And I will take you a little bit back. So
no
like,
problem.
what about if the issue is related to the religion? Like here, my problem of early marriage is related to the religion. Yeah,
Yes.
because just after finishing their primary school, after like just 13, 14 years, for them, a girl should be married.
Yes.
And this is a problem for them to continue their studies. So like did you get me?
Yeah. Yes, I get you. I get you a lot. And also then you need to find out why, because no religion says get married at 14, isn't it? It doesn't explicitly say that. So it means that that religion or culture is somebody's interpretation, isn't it? So you need to find out why they think a girl should be married at that age. If they say the Quran says so, or the Bible says so, try and reason with them and ask them, where does it say so? You see, or what are the reasons why? Apart from it says so, what are the other reasons? So they might give you a reason like a girl will give birth better when she's younger than when it's just an example. So that you keep digging. But I agree with you that the issues of religion are very difficult, because as long as somebody has believed this is the truth, then it becomes very difficult for them to be able to change their minds on the same. So this is where you begin to ask yourself, if I'm not an expert in religion, is there somebody who sees my point of view? so assume you're investigating this so that you can try and improve the point of girls going to school so that they stop getting married early. You begin to ask yourselves, are there women who have defied this culture or this religion and gone ahead to not to get married early, and are they successful? And can they provide insights that I may not be able to? Or a Qadi or a priest or a preacher who can be able to say, to read the Quran or interpret it differently from the people, so that he or she can give them a different perspective. So I agree with you that yes, religion is one of those that is much harder, because once people have believed, they're like, we cannot question God. And when somebody reaches there, it means that no matter what you do, they're not willing to see a different perspective. So usually it takes, for example, somebody else to interpret that belief system. And it has to be somebody they trust, somebody they respect, and somebody who then has power also to be able to change that narrative. Yeah, but still it is important. You may find also that, yes, some people may hide in the name of religion, but it could be that, I want my children to marry early because I want my girls to marry early because I want to get more bride price, which is maybe to restock the cattle and the goats. So you may find that as you dig deeper, the issue of religion is used as an excuse, but there's a much deeper issue, which might be poverty. I don't know whether that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, so you have to keep digging. And you may find that the issue of religion is actually the one that outweighs, it might be the poverty issue outweighs the religious issue. It's just that it's easier to explain the problem using religion because religion is not questioned. Okay? So that's why I'm telling you, the way you ask the questions, how you ask the questions can help you dig a lot deeper into what really is the problem. It also could be that the girls don't want to continue with school. They also or it could be that, let me give you an example. I was doing some work in a place in the northern part of my country, which borders Somalia. And in that, I don't know, is there anyone from Somalia here? I don't know. But in that, can I say, culture, women have to get circumcised. And the circumcision is really, allow me to just say it, it's cutting off the clitoris, really. And then they sew you with a piece of thread to close you up, so that by the time you get married, the sex is very, 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 very painful, extremely painful, so that a lot of the women in that culture have very many gynecological issues. But do you know, so it is assumed culturally that they are the ones who want, that is the culture. But do you know, when I went there, the boys, the young men are the ones who are saying, we are the champions. We are the ones who are championing the end to FGM, because we are not able to enjoy, whether it's our relationships, our marriages, because even if you marry 4 women, nobody wants to be sexually intimate with you. Why? Because it is such a painful thing for the women. So we are forced then perhaps sometimes to have extramarital affairs or go out there because our women cannot handle the pain. So as men, but you see, remember that the way it has always been framed is that we are making you circumcised for the men. Are you seeing the contradiction? That usually the reason why circumcision usually happened is so that this girl can preserve herself for the man who will marry her. But the man who will marry her is saying, I don't want her to be circumcised because I cannot, it is a disadvantage to me as a man. So it already is telling you that it isn't, we really need to question those reasons that people give for certain practices. And it means that you have to go deeper and deeper and deeper. So if I was doing a research here, obviously I would surface the gynecological complications that come with it as a way of designing an intervention. I will talk about the male perspective that is saying our women are not, we cannot have a good intimate relationship with them because of how damaged they have been by this practice. You know, I'll talk to them about, of course, I'll design an intervention that is looking at where really did this culture come? And if those were the concerns, is there a different way of still maintaining the reason and then maybe doing something different rather than circumcision for us to be able to still meet our goal without hurting the girls? So anyway, and I can see Kamara, you are saying it is the same in Senegal. Yeah, so I don't know whether you want to share, Kamara. Okay. Kamara, are you able to share? I'm not able to see. It's okay. Sawa sawa. So anyway, we can go ahead and say those are some of the, you know, sometimes we have problems in our community. They are really based on a community that has also assumed for a long time this is how things have been. And yet you as a person who is intervening, you can just try to understand it, help them see that really it wasn't meant to be like that. It's an assumption you're also making, and that way you're able to flip the narrative and help them get out of those assumptions so that you get a solution. So this issue about blind spots and the issue about assumption broadly is about interpretation of information and misinterpretation of information. So let's go to, and the idea then is you're working towards challenging people's mental models. And the mental model is basically your belief system. And this belief system could be as a result of something happened, so that it affects maybe it happened a while back. So there's an issue of history there. There's an issue about experiences. There's an issue about your belief system, which affects your identity. So I'll keep giving different types of examples. So for example, if I'm a young woman who has dated like 3 men and they've all cheated on me, I might then use that history and that experience to tell myself I will never trust a man because all men are cheats. But is that really the truth? It just perhaps I have bad luck in choosing the men, or I just happen to have the first 3 were really bad people. And it doesn't mean that every man I meet is going to be a cheat. So I really constantly have to work on my belief system and make sure that I learn from those 3 what I should do and what I shouldn't do, or how to spot a cheating man. That way, I don't have to live as a prisoner of all men are cheats. And so the idea for dealing with assumptions and mental models, assumptions and blind spots, is really to work on what is our thought processes, what are our patterns, what are the values that I uphold, what is childhood, what are my childhood narratives, you know, what is my belief system, what are my role models. And it really, it's a choice that you have to constantly make, but also it means that you constantly have to keep learning and relearning. Okay, does that make sense? Something that you thought was true, maybe as you grow older, you realize, okay, maybe this is not so true. Maybe I can change my thought process this way. Yeah, but the idea, I'm not trying to make you like lose your value system. I'm just saying that there are things that happen around us that we have held as so true, and yet sometimes they're not really the truth as we speak, okay? And this thing about assumptions, it must help us to live together. I mean, it's how we improve society. It's how we improve ourselves and improve the society around us. Does anybody have a question up to this point? Okay, so we are going to go into the types of biases. And the first type I want us to discuss is the data biases. and I think we already talked about this, it occurs when you overemphasize one side of the data and when you omit some data. So, and the idea there is you must objectively collect data and interpret data while striking a balance between the under and overreacting to evidence. It means that you have to be very reasonable when you're looking at data. So let me give you an example of a data bias. In my country, and like most African countries, any government that is reporting, they will usually over-report on the successes they have made, but they are never objective about interpreting the data. So for example, they will say, so let's look at Francisca's question of the issue of education that is not so relevant to the job market. So a government will come and say, oh, look, I improved the number of people that are going into primary school through primary education, through free primary education. That is very good, okay? But if I emphasize on that data alone, but I'm not saying that, however, the quality is something we need to improve. You see, so this person gets out, yes, you have 99% of people going to primary school, but let's even dig deeper. Are all of the 99% going to secondary school? Are all the 99 receiving relevant education that is going to really help them to be such, problem-solving citizens of the country? So if I only report that, oh, I have increased the number of children that go to school, that's a good thing. But if I overemphasize it, I'm having a data bias because I'm not talking about the other aspects of education and what the numbers look like. Okay, so that a government should be judged not just on the basis of, oh, people have gone to primary school. They should be judged on the basis of, okay, if they have gone to primary school, are they transitioning to secondary? Are we keeping most of the kids in secondary school in school? Is the education, the quality of education they are getting very high? Okay. And are we even transitioning young people into the job market to 100%? So if I can demonstrate that I am more successful than somebody who just says, oh, our primary school numbers have increased to 99%. So that's an example of a data bias. Can somebody give me an example of a data bias that you have come across? Okay, data bias, anybody? From the work that you did, what's a data bias that you can point out? Yemisi, I've never heard your voice. Ogundepo. Yemisi, are you able to say something? Gloria, I don't think I've also ever heard your voice. Guys, please talk to me.
I don't know if I'm on the right track, but I do know that in terms of like the dropout rate, they'd emphasize that girls, I'm sorry, there's a noise because I'm at the airport.
No, that's okay.
But yeah, oh, okay. They emphasize that the thingy, more boys were in school as opposed to girls, but then they didn't take into account that most girls had to drop out of school because, for instance, some schools don't allow girls to go to school while they're pregnant. So that influenced the thingy, the school attendance.
Yes,
the dropout.
Yes, so I think what you're saying is that even as you look at data, for you not to have a data bias, it's important to ask the why question. Why does this information look like this? And that's a very good point, Fiona. Fiona. So that is a really good point, that for you not to have any data bias, you have to keep asking why. Okay, Why are the numbers looking like this? So that you acknowledge the other things that are going on. Bamaze is saying something. Okay, I believe Hernaina will interpret for us. Abadodo, do you have anything to say? Yes, Gloria? Mm-hmm.
According to my own database, because I'm dealing with fire,
Yeah.
the database shows me that there are a particular time when the leaks of the fire was rising and more acres of land were being burned.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the point where the government tried to find out the reason for this fire incident, and they were able to subside it. But the part in which what were the reasons for the fire to be subsided, we were never told the reasons. We are never told the solutions that we have found. They only told us that the reasons are put in place and the fire incidents have been settled. And that is the area that the government emphasized on more, because that is the thing that they did. But the past incident that happened, the land that we are burned and we are destroyed, nobody says anything about it.
Yeah.
It's one of
the
bias.
Yeah.
Observe.
Gloria, Gloria, thank you for that also, because I think, like for those of you who are Kenyan, you know that when the exam is nearing, the final exam, a lot of schools get burnt. And basically you start wondering, why is it that schools are burning and they were not burning before? And you realize that it is this, part of the reason is the young people don't want to sit the exam, so they cause a disruption, maybe because they feel anxious, maybe because they're not ready, and so they decide, okay, let's create chaos so that these exams, okay, thanks Lloyd, these exams are postponed. Of course they're never postponed, but that's exactly there are some of the reasons. And the teachers, now the government tries to think that it's just general indiscipline by children. But no, it is exams that are causing anxiety. And that's the issue that needs to be addressed if you want the fire to subside. Bamaze is saying, can these different ways of thinking and judging negatively influence our research? Yes, they do. They do. So you have to pay attention. And that's why I was saying you must have more than one side of the data for you not to be able to negatively influence your research. Okay. So the next set of biases is something we call a context bias. The context bias is a conflict of interest in situations where focus are unlikely to be neutral. And usually anyone who's a lawyer knows this issue about the biases. And a lawyer, for example, if a case is between, let's say, someone and my niece, or my relative, I have to what is called recuse myself. I have to remove myself from the equation because it is unlikely that I will judge fairly, or it's unlikely I will act neutral because this person is a blood relative. There's no way, it is assumed that on the basis of that, there's no way I can be neutral. Same case to a doctor. Doctors are advised never to be able to perform a medical procedure on a relative. Why? Because there's something there that makes you not to be so objective. So again, the context bias is the same. And I go back to the issue of, let's say, if let's say I've had 3 boyfriends that have cheated on me. It's because of that context. In the 4th one, I may be unconsciously treating them as you are, before even they say hello, I'm just saying in my heart, I'm treating them as if they are cheats. Why? Because I am biased based on my situation, okay? So focused, there are people who, this may manifest in different ways. It manifests, for example, if people are doing, different things like, can I say, let's say like there's an election, like in my country right now, there's an election. If I do, a lot of people I don't know whether this happens in other African countries, but a lot of times you have all these polls. They are called opinion polls that are said. So even if you've watched American elections, if the person doing the poll is from the side of the Republicans, usually the Republicans are winning. And if the person is doing the polls and they are really affiliated to the Democrats, again, you see there's a discrepancy in terms of the results. So the context bias is based on like, what side am I affiliated with? What do I want to happen? And so in a sense, it's like you're interpreting the issue based on the results you want to see. I don't know whether that makes sense. I don't know. And if somebody can give me an example of what I'm saying. You're interpreting an issue or information based on what you want to see. Context bias. Or based on your experiences. Can somebody give us an example?
Hello, Doc.
Hi.
It's Francisca here.
Okay.
So I started moderating.
Sorry, Francisca, we lost you.
This is an experience. And there was this gentleman who had been going to the poolside with us. And there was an accident he was involved in. He did a wrong overtaking, collided with a taxi that had about 12 young children who had closed from school. And about 6 of the children died. The rest of them survived severe injuries. And they were talking about an arrest. When I was asked about my opinion, honestly, I was biased because the guy was someone I knew, someone I had been rolling with for some time. So I started talking about, if the car is registered, if he has an insurance, this is a normal accident, he will go scot-free. But if I didn't know the guy and it was someone else that had done a wrong overtaking that had resulted in the death of 6 children, I don't think I would have said those things I said in favor of the guy. And I did that. I know I was biased, but it was because I knew the guy. So that is my experience.
Yeah, exactly. There's a context bias there because that guy is your friend. Now, assume somebody in the same scenario is a mother of a child who had died. Even if it's earlier, what do you think they would say? They would say, even if they didn't really see the accident, they would say your friend was at fault. Why? Because the context with which they are judging the accident is on the fact that they're feeling the pain having lost a child. And so they will not be defending the guy, isn't it?
Exactly.
And especially if that guy, even if the person driving the van for the children is the one who was on the wrong, if the mother had ever lost a child, it would be the other person at fault. So that's a perfect, thank you so much, Francisca. It's a perfect example of context bias. Okay. Now, groupthink. I think this is very, 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 can I say, common, especially with sorry, can you all hear me? It says my internet is unstable. Somebody confirm they can hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So, okay, thank you. The groupthink is whereby people, like, you're influenced by the group. Let's say you have a different, you're the only one with a different opinion. But everybody else has one opinion and you don't want to stick out as the odd one out. So basically you have this bandwagon effect or groupthink or group bias, where you are just saying yes because you don't want to create problems or to stand out. Okay, I think that's, and we see that a lot in peer pressure. So assume you go to a village and you're doing a story, and that's why when you're doing some of this research, you have to be very careful. It depends on the time of day you're doing it. Make sure you choose the right time of day. Make sure you choose even the right location. Make sure you choose, like, if let's say you're interviewing a woman who who needs to go back home and cook, and you're interviewing her at 6 o'clock, she will tell you anything you want to hear sometimes, so that you just, and she's sitting in a group. They just want to tell you quickly or agree quickly so that they don't waste time because they need to go back home and cook. So groupthink is very interesting because sometimes just that, oh, look, I just need to get done over and I don't want to continue prolonging the conversation, or I don't even want to argue, so let me just agree. And yes, they think differently. And so it's so important to make sure that, especially when you're doing something in a group, try and pay attention to the quiet ones. Try and dig out from everybody, what do they really think? And you will find that some of the quiet ones usually have a different problem or a different opinion from the loud ones. And if you realize that the quiet ones may not want to speak because they are intimidated by the loud ones, just ask for a one-on-one with the quiet one so that you hear their point of view. And that way you get a different opinion that is not the opinion of the group. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Then there's an issue we call the confirmation bias. So the confirmation bias is where you have information and you're not interpreting it objectively, but you're using the data to try and make sure that it says what you want to hear. So you've gone to a place, there isn't necessarily, or the data has surprised you in a certain way, but you don't want to believe it. So you try and do everything possible to confirm that, no. What I know to be the truth is what I am going, this data must confirm. So it's like forcing the data to say what you want to hear, okay? So you are interpreting the information in a way that confirms your own misconceptions or preconceptions of an issue. And then you want it to elicit or to confirm your pre-existing beliefs or your pre-existing ideas, okay? So that is what is called a confirmation bias. And that's why we were saying that when you are doing some of this work, you have to free your mind of the things that you know. So I don't know what example, I don't know, does anyone have an example that comes to mind about a confirmation bias? So it's let's say, oh, sorry, it's okay. Let's say like Paul's interview, or rather Paul's work is about, no, it's not, but assume you're doing gender-based violence and the narrative you have is that it's women who are beaten. But let's say the data that is showing is that in this community, it's the men who are beaten. But you say, no, that cannot be true. I must find out whether we have more. So you are trying to make the data tell you that more women than men are beaten. So that's a confirmation bias. You're using this data, refusing to believe what you see, and you want it to say what you want the data to say, right? Then there is the ostrich effect, is a bit like the confirmation. It's being in denial about a situation. So that's an ostrich effect. They say that when ostriches are afraid, they dig their heads in the sand so that they don't want to see what's around them. And then there is the observer expectancy effect. It's still the same. So observers notice behavior they expect to find and fail to notice behavior they do not expect. It's the same thing, that you are not open enough to keep digging so that you can find the different narrative that might be there. Usually those different narratives are not as obvious, and so you have to keep digging. So sometimes you can go into the field in such a hurry, you've done a good job, but you are not asking to the point where you have uncovered everything, including the not so significant details. So this is what is called observer expectancy. It's a little different in the sense that you're not paying attention to the things that are not as loud. So let me see an example. Let's use Francisca's example of observer expectancy. So in the police questioning of this accident that happened, it could be that we are talking to the drivers about what happened, but we are not noticing that actually the road has become so bad that there's beginning to be more accidents there. So assume that if I'm a police investigator, I didn't even uncover that small issue that the road has started actually becoming bad, and that could have contributed to the accident. So I keep on blaming the drivers instead of looking at, could there be other conditions that may have caused the issue? Okay. So the assumption here is that the drivers must be at fault. Maybe no one was at fault. Maybe the road was at fault. I don't know whether you are understanding what I mean. That sometimes we look for information in the obvious places and we don't try and see the not so obvious information. And that's why it's called observer or expectancy effect. Okay. Then there's the natural versus intentional bias. So it is natural to extract different meanings to one issue as long as it is a genuine one versus biased definitions. So one thing can mean many things. Like this is a 3. It can be an E, depending on how you look at it, a W or an M. It's okay to look at things from those points of view, so long as it's a genuine interpretation. There are people. So yesterday I actually was making a presentation somewhere and somebody looked at this number 3 and they said, actually, it could be a bird. Can anybody see a bird there?
Yeah.
You can see a bird? And he said, actually, I'm looking at it and he's saying, if I look at it from the air, and this is a bird that is under me, this could be the wings. I said, okay, that is true. The point to make here is you can try and give different interpretations, so long as it is not too far-fetched, or so be genuine about your interpretation, be true about your interpretation, and not sinister, not false. Okay? Do not force an explanation. Okay, then there is a historical bias. I think this one we've talked about for a long time. It's the weight of the past. Things that happened in the past. I gave you the example of the boyfriends. Then it looks like every time you interpret something, you interpret it from the point of view of your past experiences. Then there is the situation bias. I think we also talked about this earlier. It's the current conditions and how people frame an issue. So if, let's say, I can be here, if I'm depressed today, I will say the glass is half empty. But if the next day I'm happy, I will say this glass, same amount of water, I'll say the glass is half full. So you also have to check your own personal condition to be able to say, okay, are there things that I am doing within myself that are making me interpret things differently? When you're happy, like they said, never go shopping when you're hungry. The truth is, I've tried it, if you go shopping when you're hungry, you tend to buy more things than you should. When you go to shopping when you're full, you are more disciplined in following the list. Okay? So your internal condition is also very vital in trying to remove some of the biases. So there's what we call the recency effect. A lot of these biases are also very interrelated. So present events, like let's say the way we've gone through COVID, because COVID has, let's say in 2020, maybe we were more pessimistic than we are. We are now more optimistic than we were during COVID. Why? Because at that point in time, when something extremely bad happens, it alters our objectivity. So something can happen now, and then you tend to look at an issue from a more negative or more positive situation than if that thing had not happened. So again, it's important to just keep your cool, keep your focus, so that, let's say, this one bad extreme event doesn't define everything. Okay? Then let me, this one is something called, I can never say this word, Zeitgeist. It's about looking at things from the lens of our times. So there are people, okay, this effect is, for example, if I'm a medical doctor, I will always see things from a medical perspective. If I'm a lawyer, I will always see things from a legal perspective. But it's good to always understand that there's always a different, like more perspectives than where I come from. So it's important, like, to widen your focus. It's always good to ask, what is the medical explanation for this thing? What is the legal perspective about these things? What's the political explanation? What's the economic perspective? That way, in the same issue, you get different interpretations, and that removes you from this kind of bias. We are almost there. So how do you deal with our biases? Does anybody have a question up to this point? Or anybody who wants to share an experience or an example? Anybody? Okay, nobody. So how do you deal? Somebody tell me, how do you deal with biases?
I think the most effective way to deal with biases, generally speaking, is to obviously allow the data speak for itself and not to try and misrepresent what the data is saying.
Yeah, be objective, isn't it? And being objective is also, first of all, knowing, like understanding these biases, that it's possible to actually, yes, Fiona, I love your answer. Acknowledge that I am capable of any of the biases. Even me as your lecturer, I am capable of any, and at any one time, I must always be aware that I don't have exclusion over any bias. So even me as anybody, always know that today, if I go out in the field, I'll make the wrong decision. So be aware of the bias. But Rebecca, I like what you're saying. Let the data speak for itself as well. So acknowledge it. Fiona is saying. Abadodo is saying, try to see things from other perspectives. Exactly. Ebenezer is saying, keep the data balanced, understanding the other view, and be open-minded. Yes. Be open-minded. So as I conclude the lecture today, you must recognize your own vulnerability and your unconscious biases. So know the biases well and recognize they exist. At any one point in time, there is a bias that is following you. So make sure you are always constantly recognizing it. But number two, you must think critically. Attend to data objectively, and then look at issues from different perspectives. That helps you to have different interpretations. Number three, challenge your own mindset. Question your own assumptions. Make sure that you are constantly doing that, so that you know your own mental model, to make sure that you are being objective. Then obviously that means you're allowing yourself to learn. Okay, you're allowing yourself, so that even if I'm the teacher, I am learning from your work. Okay, and I'm not saying I'm better than you. I am saying that, yes, I might have known a few things more than you have, but I can allow myself to learn from you, okay, and really grow in my work. Bamaze is saying something. Yeah, I can't make it out. So that is my lecture for today, guys. Any questions as I wait for Bamaze's answer to be given, or rather the interpretation to be given? Any questions, any input, anything? It is necessary to know how to make the difference. Yes. Bamaze, I would like to hear more what that means. So what are the positive aspects of bias? Okay, Paul is asking, what is the positive aspect of bias? Anybody has an answer? I've never thought about that question, Paul.
I think I might have an answer to that.
Okay.
Yes, I think last time we talked about how when you're somebody who's trying to benefit from the research. If you let's say you're a woman who is doing gender-based violence issues, you want your research to speak for women more than it would for men. So I think as a matter of being an agent of change, I think a bias like that one can work in your favor, because now I think you'll be able to pursue the much bigger problem than actually making everything balanced when in fact things are not balanced. So if people in a particular area being abused are women, and you are a woman, you're obviously biased against men already. So that means your research will speak more to women, and then that way women will get more help.
More help. Okay. Yeah, but yeah, as a researcher, and unfortunately, Rebecca, that's how, and Paul, that's how development works. If you think about NGOs, usually there's an agenda, isn't it? And they fund those agendas. So I can come and say, I love those biases we're talking about. I love I'm advancing the cause of girl child. Okay, and let's say the data is showing that the boy child in this community is actually more disadvantaged, but because the development money is targeting girls, I have to make the data say it's the girls that are disadvantaged. So you find that maybe it's not a positive, then you craft a narrative that continues to benefit the girls and neglect this problem that we are seeing of the boys, because there's resources to do the girl child work, but we are not being true to the fact that no, actually for us to actually benefit, we need to either balance both or even invest in the men more. Actually, it reminds me of an issue at a class. It was like some work I did for it was a political strategic plan. And the plan was beginning to show that in that particular area, I think there's a guy called Tanui here. If he's Kenyan, there's a place called Central Province, and Central Province has been showing that consistently the boys have been doing worse. Even gender-based violence, a lot of it is against the boys. And the numbers for the boys, whether it's people dropping out of school, gender-based violence, drug and alcohol abuse, is among the boys more than the girls. And so in this strategic plan, what I like about the member of parliament there, once we presented the results, they actually decided they were going to close some of the all-female schools, because those were so many more than the boys. And there wasn't even a single all-male school. So they said they were going to close a few so that they can start doing an all-boys schools and centers of excellence for boys, so that they try and reverse this problem of the boy child issues in that particular constituency. I don't know whether it worked, but the point to make is there was someone there who was willing to follow what the data is saying to actually try and produce results or, address the problem. So you are right. Sometimes, and unfortunately, the way development, Paul, is structured, it's structured with these biases. And that means that we never solve the problem. We continue funding. We are not funding the root causes of problems. And that is a problem. So I don't know if there are any positive aspects to it. Moyo is saying it allows you to react positively. Bias could help overthinkers. Okay, Moyo, I think that's a very funny answer. I'm interested to hear more about why you think that way. Then Enoch is saying, I think in challenging your mindset to avoid bias, assumptions will always supersede the urge to understand the insight. Enoch, if you could unmute yourself to tell us what you mean. Enoch, are you able to unmute yourself? Even Moyo, I'm interested to hear what you mean.
Yes.
Yeah,
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Okay, I lost some connection, so I think you want me to explain what I meant by
Yeah, what you mean
assumption.
by the comment that you have put here. I think in challenging your mindset to avoid bias and assumptions, to avoid biases, assumptions will always supersede the urge to understand. I want to understand that statement.
Okay. What I meant is that always we always believe in our assumptions and the perceptions on things. So when you are trying to challenge yourself or trying to change the narrative that about assumptions, it's always
welcome, I guess.
Sapana, mute yourself. Okay.
Okay, so we are always trying to change the assumptions we have about the things by challenging our mindset. But we will always remain with the fact or with our assumptions as the reality or what we believe is the truth. Even by challenging ourselves, we'll still remain believing with our assumptions.
And that's why, Enoch, I think when you dropped out, I was saying that you don't have to remain with your assumptions. Part of this work is to help you become a better person. It's to you to use this work, use this challenging your mindset should help you get rid of those negative things you've held true as if they are true and they are not. So allow yourself to learn. It's actually called learn and relearn. Learn is learn new things, and learn is learn bad old, move away from the bad old habits or belief systems. Relearn means the ones that are bad, that you had that were bad ones, replace them with good ones that you have discovered are better than the ones that you had. So that's what I was saying. Don't remove the bias and remain where you are. You must learn. You must allow this learning to transform you and to transform your belief system. Okay, Enoch? And anybody else, don't hold on to the things that, like now, if you grew up thinking beating a woman is okay or beating a man is okay, by now you know that it's another human being, you don't have to. So just move on and change from that kind of belief system. That's what I mean. Okay. So I'd like to hand over the meeting back. I don't know whether this lesson has been helpful, but today I don't have any homework for you. I noticed that a lot of people had difficulty with last week's homework. So I'm giving you another chance in the week to just refine what you have, and so that you can improve on your work. Again, I hope today's lesson will also help, but today's lesson will also be very useful when you go to the field. Okay, thank you. I'm handing back the meeting over to Lawrence.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Gatingi. Colleagues, can we give a round of applause to Dr. Gatingi? Thank you so much. You can unmute your mic and just for a minute. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Katinde.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Thank you. So I don't know if Harry and Ina have something to say, but yeah, we can call it a day today, and the recordings will be available immediately. You can, moving forward, you can watch them from YouTube. So I'll share the link, and once I get the PowerPoint from Dr. Katingi, I will also share them. But I'm hoping that, as she said, I can get all of your assignments and then I can share the draft with her. Otherwise, thank you so much, colleagues, for the day. Have yourself a wonderful Saturday and the rest of the day, the week. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.